Hi, in this video, I will discuss about multiple features of pivot table. So how we can utilize the pivot table, how we can choose the layout of the pivot table. These are things I will cover here. So see here, first, I'm just removing this pivot table I have already created. So first, I'm just adding a pivot tables. We have this data. So in sheet 1, we have data. I want to add a pivot table into sheet 4. So how we can do it? So you need to select the data, go to insert, go to pivot table, pivot table. So this is the pivot table. Now you have to click on existing pivot, existing worksheet. And here you need to go to sheet 4 and take a pivot table on A4. Enter. Now you can see here, I'm getting a layout of the pivot table. So here in this area, I will place my column and I will show the data into pivot table. So first I want to let you know about these things. So these are reports filter. This is the report filter. This is a column label, report row label and values label. Okay, values label is also called data label. Okay, so report filter, if we have multiple columns here, we can place only those column which is repeated value in that column. So if I talk about the region, so region is a repeated value. So if I'm taking region into this, so see here, I'm getting list of the region. And if I'm placing the uh, column sales, so here you can place only those column which is a number value column. It's not restricted, you have to place only number value column, but most of the time we have to utilize the number value column into this section. Okay, so if I'm placing this region into column, you will get your region into horizontal order. If I'm placing region in row, you will get the region into vertical order. If I'm placing region into uh, data, the region is in text data. Okay, so you have to place here, then you will get count of the data. You can see here this much data count we have in data sets. So if I'm placing here, you will get list. Now here I'm placing product category. Where is product category? This is the product category. I'm placing here. See here you are getting list of the product category, and here I will take profit, and you are getting simple pivot table. Now I will talk about this part. So you can see here these are layout of this part. So if I click on this, you can see here you are getting list of the column name here, and report, row filter, column label and values you are getting in right side. If I take this options, field selection, so you can see here you will get here only field list. Okay, now you have to move on next area. So you will get only all four section. So see here you are getting all four section, and here I will talk about last section. Last section is this one. You can see here you are getting all the four section here. Now if I talk about this actual things, now you are getting, this is a most important layout of all these sections. Now so here if I'm placing sales value here, you will get immediately effect on your pivot table. But if I remove it and I click on deferred layout, if I check on this option, deferred layout option, if you place sales value here, it's not reflecting in your pivot table, because here I have checked the deferred layout update. If I click on update, then sales value reflect into your pivot tables. Okay, so this is things which will be very useful in pivot table. Now I click on uncheck this button and I click on uh, clear. If you want to clear your pivot table, click here, clear all. See here, you are getting cleared all the data from your pivot table. Control Z, I have taken it again. Now what you have to do, you need to select the pivot table, entire pivot table. You have to click on this entire pivot table. You can see here I have selected entire pivot table. If I want to select only numerical value, then you have to click on this option and click on value. So as you can see here, I'm selecting only numerical value. If I click on label, then only alphabets value will be selected. You can see here alphabets value is selected. Now if you want to move your pivot table from this area to this area, then you have to use these options. Move pivot table, put your pointer on pivot table, click on move pivot table and put your pointer on that cell where you want to place your pivot. Now pivot table is moved. Okay, so if you want to refresh, suppose you got multiple data updated in your data sets. In this data set, we got multiple data which is corrected. Okay. So you want to reflect in your pivot table, actual data you want to reflect in your pivot table, then you have to click on refresh. Refresh means this pivot table will be replaced. But refresh all means whatever pivot table is available in this sheets, all the pivot table will be refreshed. So these are things related to pivot tables. Thank you so much for this video.